Philippine defense. 100 Chinese maritime militia vessels surround Philippine-occupied island attempting to force evacuation through blockade and intimidation. USS Rafael Peralta positions between militia fleet and the island, single American destroyer versus 100 hostile vessels. Chinese commanders believe overwhelming numbers guarantee American withdrawal. 24 hours later, Chinese militia retreats without achieving objectives, and Philippines maintains control. This is how American naval presence protects allies through resolve and capability that makes numerical advantages irrelevant when facing adversaries unwilling to escalate against superior firepower. Chinese maritime militia represents a hybrid warfare tool that Beijing employs for territorial expansion while maintaining plausible deniability about military aggression. The militia vessels are civilian fishing boats equipped with communication systems and crewed by personnel receiving government pay for conducting operations that regular Navy cannot execute without international condemnation. 100 vessels surrounding Philippine outpost creates intimidation through numbers that Philippines cannot counter with their limited naval forces. Chinese strategy depends on American reluctance to intervene in disputes involving civilian vessels, even when those vessels clearly operate under military command structure. Navy Power TV takes you inside the standoff that demonstrates American commitment to allies, creates deterrence through presence that China cannot overcome, through gray zone tactics designed to exploit gaps between peace and war. Which American capability proves most decisive? A. Firepower superiority. B. Political resolve. C. Alliance commitment. Comment your answer below. USS Rafael Peralta, DDG-115 Arleigh Burke, Flight Litiotumay destroyer received tasking to demonstrate American support for Philippine territorial claims. The destroyer transited at maximum speed, reaching contested waters within 36 hours of Chinese militia arrival at Philippine Island. The American presence immediately changed tactical situation from Philippines facing overwhelming Chinese numbers to China confronting American destroyer with firepower that could eliminate entire militia fleet in minutes if hostilities commenced. Chinese militia commanders understood this reality, even while maintaining aggressive posture, attempting to intimidate Philippines into abandoning their outpost. The destroyer positioned between militia fleet and Philippine Island, creating physical barrier that militia vessels could not cross without directly confronting American warship. This positioning demonstrated American intent while avoiding provocative actions that China could use for propaganda claiming American aggression. The tactical geometry created a situation where any Chinese advance toward island required approaching American destroyer, creating escalation that Chinese political leadership wanted to avoid, despite their desire to control the disputed territory. Chinese militia vessels attempted to maintain blockade, preventing supply vessels from reaching Philippine outpost. American destroyer escorted Philippine supply boat through militia fleet. Chinese vessels scattered rather than block American warship, creating pathway that allowed supplies to reach Filipino personnel on the island. This demonstrated that Chinese numerical advantage meant nothing when American destroyer provided security that militia could not challenge without risking catastrophic losses from American weapons. Stay with me because what happens next reveals why American alliance commitments backed by naval presence create security guarantees that regional powers cannot provide independently when facing adversaries with overwhelming numerical advantages and irregular forces. Chinese state media broadcast propaganda claiming Philippine occupation of disputed territory violated Chinese sovereignty and demanding immediate evacuation. American State Department responded with statements supporting Philippine territorial claims and affirming American treaty obligations to defend Philippine forces against armed attack. This diplomatic backing combined with the destroyer presence created comprehensive security guarantee that Philippines could not achieve through their own military capabilities facing Chinese pressure. Regional allies observed American response, recognizing that treaty commitments have substance backed by military forces that arrive rapidly when allies face aggression. Japanese, South Korean, Vietnamese, and Australian security planning benefited from demonstration that American naval forces intervene protecting allies from Chinese gray zone warfare that attempts to achieve territorial gains without triggering conventional military responses. This reassurance strengthens alliance cohesion and encourages resistance to Chinese pressure that would otherwise force accommodation with Beijing's territorial demands. The standoff continued for 3 days, with Chinese militia maintaining positions around the island, while American destroyer prevented them from approaching Philippine outpost or interdicting supply vessels. Chinese commanders faced dilemma: withdraw, admitting failure, or escalate against American warship, risking conflict that Chinese political leadership wanted to avoid. The calculation favored withdrawal when international attention focused on confrontation, creating diplomatic pressure that China could not sustain while maintaining narrative about peaceful rise and respect for international law. Navy Power TV examines the strategic calculation where American naval presence creates deterrence through capability, and resolved that adversaries cannot overcome through numerical advantages or hybrid warfare tactics when facing clear demonstrations of American commitment to alliance defense obligations. Chinese militia began withdrawing on 4th day, claiming weather concerns prevented continued operations. International observers recognized face-saving excuse for tactical defeat when Chinese forces failed to achieve objectives against American opposition. Philippines maintained control of disputed island. Chinese territorial expansion attempt failed. American naval power demonstrated effectiveness of presence operations that protect allies through commitment backed by capability that adversaries must respect regardless of their numerical advantages in irregular forces. The economic implications extended beyond immediate territorial dispute. International shipping companies gained confidence that American forces protect freedom of navigation in contested waters where Chinese militia previously disrupted commercial traffic. Insurance rates decreased for vessels transiting areas where American naval presence provides security against Chinese interference. This economic benefit justified continued American presence through reduced costs for international commerce, exceeding expenses of naval operations providing the security. How many Tomahawk missiles does USS Rafael Peralta carry threatening Chinese mainland? A. 30 missiles. B. 60 missiles. C. 90 missiles. Answer at end. The destroyer's vertical launch cells contain sufficient Tomahawk inventory to strike Chinese coastal installations if conflict escalated beyond militia confrontation. This strike capability created implicit threat that China must consider when evaluating costs of escalation against American forces protecting Allied territory. Chinese coastal infrastructure, including ports, radar installations, and communication facilities, all remain vulnerable to American precision strike that China cannot prevent through defensive systems. Quantity versus quality demonstrated when quality includes firepower that makes numerical advantages irrelevant against adversaries lacking weapons or willingness to engage American military forces. Comment Q or L. If you believe American destroyer presence protects allies effectively against Chinese gray zone warfare, type Navy Power TV right now. Philippine government expressed gratitude for American support that enabled them to maintain territorial control against Chinese pressure. The successful defense strengthened Philippine-American alliance and encouraged continued cooperation on military basing and access agreements that provide American forces with regional presence needed for rapid response to future crises. Chinese attempts to isolate Philippines from American alliance system failed when American actions demonstrated treaty commitments have substance beyond diplomatic rhetoric. Regional security architecture benefited when American naval presence proved effective deterrent against Chinese expansionism. ASEAN nations lacking individual capability to resist Chinese pressure gained confidence that American forces intervened protecting international law and allied interests. This multilateral security benefit creates stability that reduces likelihood of Chinese miscalculation, leading conflicts that nobody wants but might occur without credible deterrence, backed by American military capability and political resolve. Chinese military observers studying this confrontation must reconsider their maritime militia strategy that assumes American reluctance to intervene in gray zone operations. The destroyer deployment demonstrated American willingness to position forces directly opposing Chinese irregular warfare, creating risks that Chinese planners apparently underestimated when developing strategies that depend on American non-intervention. Future Chinese operations must account for American responses that negate numerical advantages through presence and firepower that militia vessels cannot challenge. Which factor proved most important? Destroyer firepower, American resolve, or Philippine alliance? Share your assessment. Alliance commitment backed by capability. Answer to quiz. Arleigh Burke destroyers carry approximately 60 Tomahawk missiles in standard loadout, providing strike capability against Chinese mainland targets if conflict escalates beyond gray zone confrontation into actual warfare. This implicit threat influences Chinese decision-making about escalation risks when facing American forces protecting Allied territory. Can China develop tactics defeating American destroyer presence protecting allies? Evidence suggests no effective counter exists within gray zone operations that China prefers. Escalating to actual military confrontation risked conflict with American forces possessing overwhelming firepower advantages. Maintaining militia pressure fails when American presence provides security that militia cannot overcome without escalation that Chinese political leadership wants to avoid. The tactical dilemma favors defenders when American commitment backs Allied territorial claims. What's next for South China Sea disputes? Continued American naval presence that prevents Chinese territorial expansion through gray zone warfare. The destroyer deployment established precedent that American forces intervene protecting allies from Chinese irregular warfare, creating deterrence that maintains status quo, preventing Chinese gains through intimidation, and numerical advantages that mean nothing against American capability and resolve. The Philippine defense demonstrates American alliance commitments have operational substance through naval forces that arrive rapidly when allies face aggression. Regional security depends on American willingness to position destroyers opposing Chinese pressure, creating protection that allied nations cannot achieve independently against adversaries with overwhelming numerical advantages in irregular forces. Subscribe to Navy Power TV, where elite naval power meets alliance commitment, proving American destroyers protect allies through presence that defeats Chinese gray zone warfare. Superior capability, unwavering resolve, alliance strength. Hit notification for operations showing why American naval forces create regional security through commitment backed by firepower that adversaries cannot overcome through numerical advantages or hybrid tactics designed to exploit gaps between peace and war that American presence eliminates through clear demonstrations of capability and resolve protecting Allied interests.